Hey, what's up, y'all? Evan from Flyletter here to show you how to create a high quality on brand newsletter in under 10 minutes. Let's get it started. The first step in creating a strong newsletter is actually creating a strong brand voice via Flyletter's brand profile. So let's do that now. Come over here to brands. You'll see I have one created already, but we're going to create a new one here just to walk you through the process. It's very simple. Your brand profile is what captures your voice, formatting, style, even your audience and visual preferences. So it's super important you do this first before trying to write a newsletter. Otherwise, it won't be on brand. So let's create one now. It's only 3 steps, and I'll walk you through the process. The first one is giving your brand an identity. So really, this is the pseudonym that you are writing your newsletter under. For me, it's my personal brand, so I would use my name. However, if you are writing under a company persona, you can name it your company name. Or if you're more of a hybrid, like a CEO writing as yourself, but on behalf of the company, you could name it yourself or your company name and then select hybrid down here. So we're going to walk through setting up mine. So I'm just going to name it myself. I'm going to go ahead and give it an image. Then for what type of brand this is, I'm going to select personal brand. However, you can select business brand if it's under your company organization name, or again, hybrid if you're a person but writing on behalf of a company. All right, so next step is adding writing samples. So Flyletter will capture your entire brand profile, your voice, style, formatting, and preferences based off just 3 writing samples. The best way to do that is by connecting your newsletter. The reason for this is it will automatically import your samples, and it will also automatically connect your newsletter feed to your brand profile. So as you publish new content, Flyletter continues to learn and will provide even better suggestions over time. Let's go ahead and do that now. All you got to do is if you have a public URL, so if you have a public Substack, public beehiiv, or Kit, you just add the URL. You can also add your RSS feed if you have an active RSS feed. And even if you publish your newsletter to a WordPress blog or something like that, a lot of these have automatic RSS feeds. And so all you have to do is just add your public URL and it should pick up everything. So I'm going to do it now. Great. It was that quick. Didn't even stop the video. You see here that it says 2 of 3 samples. The newsletter I created for this purposes is kind of thin in terms of content, and we want to get to 3 samples to really capture my voice. So what I could do is I can add an additional sample down here. If you don't have a public URL for your newsletter, you can also just add all 3 of your samples here. But something else that you can do is add writing that you admire. So by checking this box, you're able to add other people's writing. Now, this will not pollute your brand voice. It's seen as aspirational, as really a North Star, but it is a good way to further refine your writing based off of people you really admire. One person I admire is Dan Coe. I have an article pulled up here that really aligns with the stuff that I talk about. I'm going to go ahead and add it right here. So go ahead and fetch that. Boom. Grabbed it, and now I have my 3 writing samples. Let's move on to the final step. So here in the final step, we are defining your target audience, your unique differentiator, or what makes you different, as well as the main topics that you write about. You can read this here. You can edit it manually. You can also just click refresh, and it'll give you a new take on the target audience. And if you have any documentation, you can even attach files. Same thing for what makes you different. This looks pretty good. Going to come down here to main topics. So this is pretty good, but AI products, I just want to say artificial intelligence. I'll go ahead and add that. Mental health, it says because I have one article on mental health and one article on personal finance because it's thin content. It's not what I really write about, so I'm going to get rid of that. But I am going to say personal growth. Now I have entrepreneurship, business growth, artificial intelligence, and personal growth. Sounds pretty good to what I write about. Let's go ahead and move on to the final step, which is actually the creation of your brand profile. So as it's being created, what's happening is there's 3 agents running in parallel. 2 agents take your writing samples and break up the brand profile into halves and build each half of that brand profile to speed up the time it takes to create your brand profile. At the same time, you have a visual image agent that is analyzing all the images pulled from your writing samples to define your visual style. So while that runs, you're actually free to explore the rest of the product. Here's where your newsletters will show up as you write them. Here's your brand profiles. You see this one is being created right now, and this is my existing. And then as you go through and create your brand profile, you'll be able to both jot down ideas as well as get topic suggestions for that profile. And you can even create an auto schedule to automatically write newsletters pulling from your ideas on a specific writing schedule that will actually happen while you sleep. Coming back here, boom, our brand profile is ready. Why don't we check it out? This is the brand profile. I have a video on the brand profile in detail, so I'll only kind of go over this in summary, but it defines your tone, position, and voice mix, as well as your full brand persona details, audience and positioning, content philosophy, writing mechanics, signature elements, forbidden elements, and visual style. But once you have your brand profile dialed in and you feel like it really captures your voice, style, audience, and formatting, you can write your newsletter. There's a couple ways to do this. If it's a new brand profile, you can literally just click write newsletter here. It'll just randomly generate an on-brand topic and write a newsletter to show you how your brand voice sounds. Additionally, you can come here and you can write anything on a topic suggestion or anything from a saved idea. And then finally, you can just data dump directly here in the dashboard. So let's just data dump here in the dashboard. Now, one cool thing about this is you can type, you can attach files, and you can even dictate directly to it. In addition to a new topic, you can repurpose existing content. If you have like a YouTube video, for example, you can write a newsletter article based on that transcript, or you can even have the AI just write for you based on this Mad Lib style drop down of choosing the basics and then having it write for you. But for the purposes here, let's go ahead and just data dump a topic and have it write for us. And I'm going to dictate directly to it. I want to write a listicle style newsletter on the most modern, cutting edge best practices to grow my email subscriber list. So now you're here in the newsletter studio, and the newsletter is being written for you based off of a multi-agent pipeline. The first thing that happens is the strategy agent takes your input and comes up with a newsletter content strategy, then passes that information down to a research agent, which will do research based on the strategy and the topic you've provided. Once the research is completed, it hands off to an outline agent, which creates your newsletter outline, and then passes that and all the information that preceded it to a writing agent, which will actually write your newsletter. Once the newsletter is written, we have an editing agent, I call it the polish agent, that will then take that newsletter draft and take it through a round of edits to give it that polish to make it high value, on topic, and on brand. Once that editing is done and that newsletter draft is quote unquote final, we have an image agent that will then create the featured image for your newsletter based on the entire newsletter content. So you really have an entire content team in a box as you're creating your newsletter. Now, one thing that's pretty cool is you can actually leave this newsletter studio while it's being created. So you're not locked in here. You can come back here to the dashboard. You see it's generating your newsletter. Come here to newsletters. You see it's generating, but you can do anything else in the app while you wait. And of course, if you come back, it will still be moving forward in the normal pipeline. So you see here it's writing the draft. Now the draft is done and the editing agent is providing that polish to make sure that it is publish ready. And finally, the image is being created based on that polished draft. Okay, and the newsletter is complete. Let's take a look. On the right-hand side, you see the newsletter itself. Looks pretty good. Now, if you want to edit anything, you can do so manually, literally by clicking into the TipTap editor and adding content. However, what you can also do is chat with our refine agent. So here we see that there are 4 best practices, and why don't we make it 5 best practices? I'm saying, hey, can you add a 5th best practice? And boom, immediately taking your input and then creating the edit on the right-hand side. Okay, great. Added section 5. Let's check it out. There you go. Referral programs. Makes sense. And we can add even more if we wanted to, but pretty good. All right, this looks pretty good. If we wanted to regenerate the image, we could also do that by clicking this button. But let's say this is now a final draft. So if I'm on Substack, they don't have an API. So what I can do is come over here to copy. I copy the entire contents to my clipboard. I can go right into my Substack and then paste it and publish. If you have beehiiv or Kit, you can also export a draft into your platform and then review it and then publish from there.